Hi, everybody. Welcome to our webinar today for linking BI to strategy. So if anyone's having any issues hearing me, please just send a message through the text there and we can try and get that resolved. My name is Fiona Cohen and I'm a Senior BI Enterprise Performance Management Consultant for Codec DSS. With me today I have Ronan Stafford, our CEO at Codec DSS, and Tibbs Pereira, Platform Solutions Expert with Microsoft. First, I'd like to bring you through the agenda for today. Initially, we'll have a brief introduction. I'll hand over to Tibbs to give you an introduction into the Codec DSS relationship with Microsoft, and then I'll give you a quick overview of Codec DSS as a company. We'll follow that with an overview of what is strategy and what strategy management is and what causes it to fail. Next, I'd like to talk to you about the tools and techniques, not only from a business intelligence perspective, but also from a business perspective on how you can break that strategy down. Then we'll follow that with how you can use BI not only as the foundation, but also as the tactic within your strategy execution. And then Ronan Stafford will then discuss how our customers currently take the next step. How do you take that initial step and decide what's important for your company? We'll close off then by handing over to Tibbs Pereira, and he'll bring us through the Microsoft BI Quick Start program. First, I'd like to hand over to Tibbs Pereira, and he'll give an introduction to Codec DSS and Microsoft's relationship.
Thanks, Fiona. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Great stuff. Well, I'd just like to say a few words to introduce myself. Firstly, thank you very much for attending this Codec webinar. The most successful business intelligence projects are really led by business strategy. And what we found over the last few years since Microsoft became a market leader in BI is that it's really important to make sure you have the right skills available at a business level, at a technical level, and really at an integration level as well. And that's really where Codec DSS comes in. Einstein is quoted as saying, "Not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts can be counted." So you can implement reporting, analytics, business intelligence, and all that kind of stuff using the best technical and expensive tools you can find after doing loads of research. But if you don't think about two key points, then that strategy has a high risk of failure. The first point is really knowing the key things that need to be measured and improved that are going to make a real difference to the way the business runs. And that's either by increasing revenues, reducing costs, or managing your risk. And the second point is to ensure completely that the users of the solution can really exploit BI techniques to make the best contribution to the business. So you might find that some users are real expert users and will really understand data really well, and ensure that those guys have the right tools to be able to do that. And there are others who just need more overview type data. So it's making sure that in both cases and in the range in between those two extremes, that people have the right way of accessing and exploiting the data. And this is exactly where Codec DSS can really help. So from a business perspective, Codec DSS has worked with basically with some of the largest organizations in Ireland and abroad over a number of years to help to define and implement strategies to move a business forward. These organizations include large ones like Kerry Group, National Express in the UK, Arista, Department of Foreign Affairs, Department of Finance, Dublin City Council, and a number of other organizations across the board, large and small. From a technology perspective, Codec is a Microsoft partner. Recently at Microsoft, we changed our partner program to reflect at a more granular level the competencies that different partners have. One of those competencies is business intelligence. And Codec is a Microsoft partner with a gold competency in business intelligence. And that's the highest level of competency and the most relevant to help you with defining and implementing your BI strategy. From Microsoft perspective, we produce a platform and the tools to enable business users to adopt and exploit business intelligence. So, most users, for example, use Excel. Whatever tool they use for BI, eventually they end up using Excel for something or the other. They'll copy and paste information into Excel. So we've built a powerful BI functionality into products like Excel and SharePoint. So we use the familiar user interface and build those tools into these products to enable analytics as well as sharing and collaboration. These are just some of the reasons why Microsoft is in the Gartner Leaders Quadrant for business intelligence platforms and is respected by industry analysts worldwide. So using our tools will make BI a lot easier for your users. Your IT department will know how to manage them already. And most customers have already made the biggest investments in Office and SharePoint anyway. So you're just exploiting what you already have and maximizing the return on investments. So quite often, the first steps in a BI project are the most difficult. And we're partnering with Codec DSS with a way to help you take those first steps and implement a successful project. We'll have more details towards the end of the session. For now, I'll hand back to you, Fiona.
Thank you very much, Tibbs. I'll give you a brief introduction into Codec DSS. Our company was established in 1985 and has been in operation for 27 years. Initially, we were two separate entities under one group. And when we started off, the company was focused on two things: providing solutions that enabled our customers to make corporate decisions, which is where Codec came from, the name, and then through the DSS entity, providing them with the required infrastructure to be able to do so as well. Now, through our successes over the years, we have now been able to expand across into the UK, Germany, and Poland, and now have a consulting team of 42 consultants across the group. We have experience across multiple sectors, as Tibbs highlighted, National Express. We also have Kingspan, ARB, a number of large companies in Ireland and abroad, and across multiple different industries. So let's start with the question, what is strategy? A mission statement or a company strategy is a long-term end result or achievement, and it has been defined as requiring 3 pillars to be able to be successful. First of all, you need a unique marketing opportunity. So once you've defined what the product or the services that you want to sell, the next thing you need to ensure is that you have the required resources to be able to take advantage of that market opportunity. Once that has all been clarified, it is really important that you then are able to execute that strategy. Strategy management then is just the process of translating that enterprise's vision and mission into how the resources, including IT's capabilities, are deployed to generate maximum value for your stakeholders. If any one of those 3 pillars should fail, your strategy is at risk. According to Forbes magazine, only 1 in 10 strategies have been effectively formulated or effectively executed. So what does that mean? Well, basically what that's telling us is that management could possibly sit down and spend a lot of time on the actual strategy formulation and get that right. However, if the same time and effort isn't spent on identifying what that execution plan needs to be and actually executing it, you could just end up doing the right thing but doing it poorly. First of all, you need to identify from a business perspective, you need to start identifying what are your objectives, and they need to be SMART. SMART standing for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and within a certain time frame. You need to start asking yourself the big questions. What are you trying to accomplish and why? And for instance, if I take an example there of McDonald's, who have managed to endure many of the challenges that time brings its way, strive to be fast and convenient. But as times change, strategies need to change. And of recent times, they've added healthy and more natural to lists as well. Next, you need to start asking questions of what is within your control. A lot of things within business are within our control, and a lot of things aren't. And that will really allow you to start focusing on strategy and your objectives. For instance, your headcount, you can expand a plant, you can increase your production. However, things like petrol prices and exchange rates are not within your control. Those types of items could then be put on a risk register to monitor as opposed to make changes to. Next, you can ask, how will you know that you are successful? So for any of those objectives that you've identified, is it a financial aspect? Can you compare your year-on-year results? Can you check a customer survey or a credit rating? What is it in your business that is going to define whether you've made a success of a particular objective? It's really important to identify those items. The next question that you want to start asking yourself is, how can we get there? What can we physically do within our business to ensure that we reach those targets and measures that we've outlined? For instance, could you implement a project? Could you increase the size of your warehouse? Could you improve certain internal processes? Lastly, what's important to keep a log of as well is what assumptions you've made along the way, and this becomes really important during the monitoring and adjusting of your different strategies, because when you reach a point and you realize an assumption is proven to be incorrect, this is where you may need to adjust your plan. As with everything in life, we need to put our objectives into context and perspective. With strategy management, it is recommended to consider your perspectives of financial, internal business processes, learning and growth, and customer. So for instance, if you have a particular strategy to reduce costs, you could fairly say that you're going to, let's reduce the headcount. However, there is going to be a natural knock-on effect possibly on customer service. And will that also impact your internal process? Will there be enough people to run the internal processes? Secondly, you could improve your internal processes, making your business more efficient, which could then have a knock-on effect on your finances, increasing your revenue. So all of these things have an impact on one another, and it's important to consider these when you start putting your objectives down. Once you've identified and reviewed all of these different areas, you can then slowly but surely start to see the shape of a balanced scorecard appear. Now, a balanced scorecard is a management tool that can be used to measure your business and for senior managers or individuals to be able to see where your organization is in their strategy and whether you're reaching targets. So far we've discussed how we break down our strategy from our high-level mission and vision into the individual objectives and strategies, and then the actual initiatives and tactics that we can use to implement those. Each one of these different layers have different stakeholders and different information requirements at each level. Business intelligence is the link that can bring all of this together. At its bare minimum, business intelligence allows you to capture and report all of the strategic questions and tactics and communicate them across all levels of the organization. But at its best, business intelligence is the answer to a number of the questions that we asked previously on how do we get there. So here we have a number of the different methods for communication, for instance, dashboards, KPIs, balanced scorecards, and analytics. However, we also have the additional tactics here at the bottom. So business intelligence will give us the full foundation for driving our execution of our strategy. Here we have an example of a Microsoft business intelligence dashboard that would possibly be presented to an executive. The first steps of designing a dashboard is identifying the critical success factors for a company and how they are measured. These are also known as key performance indicators. It's important to understand as well that although there may be best practices for the layout and view of dashboards, for instance, and balanced scorecards, there isn't necessarily best practice for the specific measures that are being used in KPIs, because this should be different for every company, because KPIs should be driven by the strategy. So your competitors within the same market, although you may have a similar strategy, your weaknesses and strengths may be different. So you really need to kind of define these depending on your business. Balanced scorecard, a dashboard for an executive as well, a key thing is to ensure that you keep it short, have a very key focused number of key performance indicators, and these should reflect the critical measures of strategic executing, including outcomes and the status of threats and key dependencies. Here we have an example of what a balanced scorecard might look like for some senior managers and managers also within the Microsoft BI stack. So here we can clearly see that there's a lot more information is available. This also allows us very quickly to see with traffic lighting whether we're on track, whether the trend is generally going down, and very quickly managers are able to monitor and adjust and see where they are in terms of their strategic goals. Next, we have the operations and the analyst section and the types of functionality they might see. So here we have a power view from within Microsoft stack, and this can give us a very rich graphical view of what information we have in our systems and allows end users to make very quick critical decisions. Data analytics has been defined as the science of examining raw data and with the purpose of drawing conclusions about that information. However, it could be as basic as reviewing and analyzing some management reports, or as detailed as reviewing a significant amount of data within Excel, Power Pivots, and Power View as well. Now, bear with me. Next, I'd like to discuss with you, so far what we have seen is we've seen BI as a foundation and being able to drive the communication and through dashboards and balanced scorecards. However, very often business intelligence can be far more than that, and it can actually be the tactic that companies use to be able to drive their strategic objectives. Now, a couple of examples of that would be, for instance, data analytics. So by being able to improve efficiencies, make critical decisions, costs can be reduced because you might be able to evaluate certain supplier information. We have the likes of data quality and improving accuracy. Data quality control has become more and more important, and in some industries it is more than a nice to have, it's a requirement with the likes of Solvency II. We then have driving innovation. So through self-service BI that Microsoft provides as well, end users are empowered with that information at their fingertips to be able to make their own decisions and be able to drive innovation within the business. And then lastly, we have here some predictive analytics. Analytics has proven capable of enormous returns across industries. The most commonly known should be the sales bucket, where you see suggested items that you could purchase. Now, for instance, when you log on to Amazon or select a book, there's generally a few recommendations at the bottom of other purchases that you might want to make. However, data analytics and predictive models have a far wider spread. For instance, in the life insurance markets, models are being used to assist in risk selection, classification, and mortality pricing as well. I'd like to bring you through two examples of customers where we've implemented BI as the actual tactic as opposed to just the foundation as well. First, I'd like to talk to you about GSK. GlaxoSmithKline is a world-leading research-based pharmaceutical company. Their mission is to improve the quality of human life by enabling people to do more, feel better, and live longer through the use of their products. Now, CHK is their consumer health division, and they needed to manage a global product hierarchy, and they had between 10,000 and 15,000 products to manage. Now, as you can imagine, this is quite a challenge because it came from a number of different data sources across a number of different markets, and they were dealing with things such as the same product number being used in two different areas but with a different product. They had different naming conventions, and as you can imagine, it was very difficult to have any kind of an enterprise-wide view in terms of not only from reporting but for brand management as well. Now, once master data management was put in for GlaxoSmithKline, that allowed them to have a central store and a central control for managing all of that product information. And they were then able to have a consistent view across the entire business. They're now in a position to be able to run any reports and be able to analyze their data across territories, across product groups, and they can now very easily control their brand management and do reporting at an enterprise level. Next, I'd like to talk to you about one of our customers, LuxMed. Now, LuxMed are a leader in private medical care services in Poland and provide healthcare services to over 1 million patients. One of the BI initiatives within LuxMed is a great example of how data analytics can really help you reduce costs. Through their implementation, they were able to analyze their 120 clinics, hospitals, And basically what their system consists of is they have a contractual agreement with the doctors, and they pay the doctors for the time that they spend in their clinics. They also have contracts with the companies who insure their employees through LuxMed. And lastly, they have individual patients that might just pop into the clinics on a particular day. Now, a transaction is considered as a patient's visit with the doctor. Using Microsoft's BI Suite, all information relating to that transaction has been brought into the system and consolidated, and is then aggregated using analysis services, and 20 predefined measures were then calculated. So using this information, they were then able to look at measures such as doctor utilization, doctor profitability, insurance package profitability, and customer profitability. And this very easily allowed them to start analyzing their particular areas and know which different contracts they could renegotiate. And very quickly, this showed a result in being able to reduce their costs across the group. I'd now like to hand you over to Ronan Stanford. Ronan?
Okay, thanks, Fiona. So what I'm going to talk about for a couple of moments is practically what's involved in this in an engagement. So I'm going to refer to a recent engagement that we did in Ireland. And it initiates with a series of interviews where our consultants will go and talk to a number of key stakeholders within the organization. And during these one-hour interviews, we ask a series of very simple questions. One of the key ones is we ask them to define success for the organization. So what does success look like? Then we get them to explain to us what drivers or what can the organization control to impact on that success. And it's quite amazing so in this example, we spoke to 24 stakeholders across various functional areas, which included the managing director, many people in sales and marketing, customer service, operations, finance, accounting, economists, and I'm sure there were more people interviewed as well. And one of the things that comes out of those type of meetings is you find there's an inconsistency of understanding across the organization where different senior people responsible for different parts of the organization will define success differently. So one of the very valuable things that we can do at that stage is to bring the key stakeholders together to get a consensus on what a common definition of success is for that organization. In other words, to put it quite simply, are the actions of those people employed by the company to maximize profit, or is it to maximize revenue, or is it to release a new product, or is it something else? And try and quantify what success looks like. The other aspect of that is focusing on the drivers. So we want to understand what decisions can be made which will have an impact on success. So things like you can hire more people, or you can use less people. You can invest more in branding or less in branding. You can change the mix. You can change pricing, etc. So what levers does the organization have at the disposal which can have an impact on success? And from that information, we can then start to look at building a model of strategy and all the data sets that are related to strategy. And what we look to do is we look to put it in context. We look to put the data in context on how it impacts on strategy. And quite often you'll find there'll be interdependencies as well. So one data set will have an impact on multiple strategies. And what we're trying to do there is build a model which allows the organization to see how strategy is impacted and what they should do and what they can do when intervention is required. At that stage, what we typically do is we bring all the stakeholders into a meeting and we'd run a workshop. And what we're looking to do there is we're looking to prioritize. Hopefully, we'll have come up with so many areas, opportunities for analysis and reporting that the organization won't want to do everything at the same time. So what they'll look to do and what we'll encourage them to do is prioritize a few key areas that we can use to initiate the business intelligence project. Once we achieve consensus there, we've got a very good roadmap for how business intelligence is going to link into strategy, what success looks like for the company, what the company can do to impact that success, and what are the prioritized applications that are going to get rolled out. What's the most important one that we want to deliver first? And ideally, that will be within a few weeks. And then what does the BI roadmap look like? maybe 2 years down the road, what should encompass later on at that stage. So that's what a typical engagement looks like. It's very important that when we meet with the stakeholders, we're talking business and we're not talking about technology, semantic layers, ETL, master data management. It's purely a business conversation. But what's also important is that the people who are conducting those interviews are able to convert that business conversation into how it impacts on business intelligence and how business intelligence can be linked into strategy. One of the things that we would recommend strongly at the end of this process is that the company, if they haven't already mentioned it, include a dimension for forecasts. So once you've identified areas where decisions will have an impact on the business and information and data that's relevant to that, you want to forecast forward 3, 6, 12 months, depending on the industry, it could be 20 years. And the forecast is very important to the whole management of strategy here. And what forecasting really does is it says, based on the allocation of resources that we have today and the strategic execution we have today, this is the outcome we expect to get from it. So as they're monitoring their BI system, if the outcome that they desired is not being achieved, it allows them to then act. An act would be change the levers or the drivers that they have control over that impact on success and on the results. So that when it's up and running, you have an iterative process. So you have your forecast in your BI system, you're monitoring it using the BI system, and then the business is able to act when it's appropriate. And then it's a cyclical process which continues. So that's practically, in a very high level, what an engagement would look like. One of the things I'd just like to comment on this stage is why do organizations, and we've done 3 of late. One we're doing at the moment is for one of Ireland's largest utility companies. We've done one for one of Ireland's 2 largest banks, and we've done one for one of Ireland's 3 largest telecommunication companies. And the reason why we often get asked into these engagements, sometimes it's because the organization has a strong focus on strategy management, strategy execution. But more often than not, the reason why we're asked in is not because the focus of the organization is strategy. The focus is the organization is very keen to get the benefits and return of a business intelligence system. But they have so many data sets, so many pieces of information, and so many indicators that they're uncertain as to what should be monitored and what should go into the business intelligence system. And what the purpose of the exercise of bringing us in to engage is to really identify where the BI system should start. And really by doing that, what you're doing is you're avoiding a situation where technical people will take a very large data warehouse or a very large data dump and they'll start building indicators and metrics on the back of it. And what you end up then is a large volume of lead and lag indicators, which really many of them, even if irrespective of whether it's a positive or negative indicator, there's nothing the business can do about it. Therefore, it begs the question, why are you monitoring and tracking it if there's no associated action with it? So by doing this exercise at the start, it really stacks the odds in favor of a successful business intelligence solution, which will deliver results in weeks and will be offering very clear value to the business, and therefore the uptake from a business user's perspective is very high. And that's what the real benefit of those systems are. So I think, Fiona, from my perspective, that's my couple of minutes.
Thank you very much, Roland. And so with that, then, what I'll do is I'll hand you over to Tibbs Pereira, and he'll close off for us with a review of the Business Intelligence Quick Start program. Tibbs?
Thank you. Can you hear me okay, Fiona?
No problem.
Great. Yeah, I'd like to really reinforce what Roland's just said. It's really important to work with the right partner. We have only a small number of trusted, reliable partners who've delivered success in Ireland. And the point that Roland made, defining what success looks like, those stakeholder meetings, what are you trying to achieve, where do you start? And of course, having a roadmap is absolutely critical. And when you're at the stage to start, considering how this thing is going to be implemented, we have a program called Quick Start, which we're working on with Codec DSS. And that's a 5-day engagement. Microsoft will provide some virtual machines, data loading tools, and a number of BI templates. And the idea is that within those 5 days, we build a number of prototypes using your own data that will demonstrate to you how you can realize your BI strategy, what it would look like, how familiar everything will be to users, and really help you to just take those first few steps towards implementation of a good BI strategy. Typically, there's an investment in those tools and those resources from us, and Codec DSS will also put a package together so we can deliver that quick start for you in a way that makes a lot of sense. It is chargeable, it's not free, but it will be very cost effective and it'll be a really good package. So it's being used already with a small number of customers who've found that it actually makes a lot of sense to just get things up and running and get people moving on a BI implementation. That's it for the quick start engagements, Fiona. I'll hand over to you.
Thanks very much, Tibbs, and thank you everybody for joining the webinar today. If you have any further questions or queries, or you'd like to participate in the Quick Start program, please could you forward your emails to franoprey at foprey@codecdss.ie. Thanks very much. Bye.